talking about what is called top surgery. It is also actually a double mastectomy. People tend to call it top surgery because the thought of cutting off healthy breasts can be unpalatable. Now, please do not get me wrong. I am not transphobic. I am not anti-adult transgender people going ahead with surgery. I'm not anti-transgender people getting whatever medical and surgical and psychological intervention they need. I need to make that very clear. My concerns are surgery on healthy young teenagers and young adults whose brains have not yet completely formed. We know, as a matter of fact, that many young people identify as transgender and then later re-identify as the gender that matches their biological sex. So my daughter, for example, identified as transgender for 9 months. She then, after 9 months, re-identified as a non-binary person, neither identifying as male nor female, but rather something more androgynous. So I have an extreme concern about these double mastectomies. The reason that people are getting these, for transgender people are getting these, and I speak only about teenagers because that's my field of knowledge. I'm just a mother, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a surgeon, I'm not a psychologist, but this is information that I have learned in my journey as I walk side by side with my daughter in helping her figure out who she truly is. This is not my journey, it is her journey, and I've never imposed my views on her, but I certainly have helped her to not get shut down in one avenue of thought and not to lock herself into one avenue of thought. I have encouraged her always to consider all of her options, whatever those may be. So top surgery, there's a reason people don't want to call it mastectomy because that just sounds too terrible for words, and it actually really is terrible surgery. The difficulty is that really none of us can know what it's like unless you've actually been through it. Now, the mastectomy that transgender people go through, why do they do it? Well, because they will feel better. They think they will feel better once they've had the surgery. They want to. So this is for. I'm talking about teenage girls who identify as transgender and want to modify their body to be more masculine looking. And so it's to modify their body to make them feel better about themselves and to fit their transgender identity. Now, the information that I'm going to share here is taken from a post online from a 26-year-old who did have a double mastectomy due to being transgender. What she says, she subsequently detransitioned and is no longer considers herself transgender. So what she says is surgery is intense, invasive, risky, painful, and traumatic. A mastectomy is a drastic measure to take, and yet top surgery is casually talked about as if it were a fact of life as natural as growing old. She also says, I see little discussion about what it feels like to inhabit a post-op body. She did a lot of research and she had been wearing a binder for many years. And all of the information that she could find was positive and focused on the look. This is how flat my chest looks 1 year post-op. All of it was focused, or most of it was focused on visual appearance and identity affirmation. And for her, really, she went through the mastectomy to get away from binding. She didn't want to continue binding her chest or her breasts. Her post-op experience was permanent nerve damage, chronic pain, unnatural sensation, and major revisions. She had to go back twice, 1 year apart, for further operations. She did raise some concerns prior to the operation with her surgeon, and the surgeon dismissed her concerns and really focused on what she was going to look like post-surgery. The other thing is that she says that the upper portions of the chest are still left in place to make a natural-looking contour. And from her perspective, the tissue still feels the same and is affected by gravity in the same ways as before. So this operation for this young lady did not deliver what it was promised to deliver, which was basically turn her chest into the male version. She says, if I lie on my side or bend over, or exist in pretty much any state other than the stand up straight, shoulders back, arms at your side pose that they make you do pre and post-op photos, then the tissue in my breasts jiggles or droops or does whatever it has done before, excepting now I can also feel where it's cut off and the rest of the tissue has been scooped away. I can feel where I was cut, where just jointed pieces of skin are sewn next to each other, and where skin is now missing. I don't know how else to describe it. It is unsettling, unpleasant, truly surreal combo of sensations. So it is a fallacy and a lie to suggest to young people, as is being suggested all over the internet, that if your breasts are something that cause you psychological distress, then all you need to do is have them removed. Now, this particular young lady, in addition to having this constant pain, and she talks about her nipples and how they're in constant pain, even she posted this 3 years after she'd had the operation and the pain continued to be extreme and intense. She did the operation to get away from the pain of binding her breasts. Unfortunately, she still suffers from pain from breast binding as well. So it didn't even alleviate that healthcare problem. She also says that for her, feeling slightly less jiggly wasn't worth it. Being slightly less notable to men wasn't worth it. Because when I'm away from the eyes of others, alone with myself each evening, I feel and see my body and what has been done to it. I have to live with the mental and emotional weight and literal physical pain of the discomfort. I feel like a fool for having gone into debt to pay someone to do this to me. So there's nothing that I can add to that. Top surgery or double mastectomy on healthy teenagers is certainly nothing that I would allow my teenager to go through. It is something that should be undertaken with extreme caution. If your child or your teenager is considering this, please seek out people who have gone through this, not just the glossy photos and the glamorizing posts on Facebook or on social media, but also actual real people who've had years to reconsider and who can give you a balanced opinion as to what is happening. So I hope that opens your eyes to some of what is going on with top surgery. Of course, what they also don't explain, or what surgeons and doctors don't really go into, is that there is a significant number of people who after surgery change their mind about their gender orientation and re-identify as their biological, the gender that matches their biological sex. So basically they go back to being female and identify as being female. And so then they're left with these physical and emotional scars as well in the chest area. And so they never really feel like a female again because of this mutilation that has occurred. So please like this video, share this video, and subscribe. And I hope that this was of some use to you. I'm sending you lots of love and lots of hope, and I will see you next time.